We have a conversation. So, Cindy Evelyn Magara, what a pleasure to have you. We call this Coffee with Robert Kabushenga, and there's a reason for it, which is very simple, because I grow coffee, I process it, I grind it, and then I sell it. But in your case, I am going to give it to you for free, so you're welcome to.
Wow.
Yes, and this is just a black coffee, very simple, Robusta beans from my farm. Totally different radical taste, but
wow.
It gives us a basis for conversation, which now brings me to, I think what I would say would be for me a good entry point into our conversation on coffee. Do you know where Robusta originated?
Retake.
Okay, very good.
Is it Ethiopia?
No. Ethiopia, yes. So the story that's sold to the world is that coffee originated from Ethiopia because of the first Arabica beans and the whole myth about goats eating and getting excited and the boys. Yes, that's because Arabica was growing in the Ethiopian highlands. And Ethiopia happened to be, at that point in time, one of the most advanced black African countries. But Robusta coffee actually originates in Chivale forest. Exactly.
My place, my home. You got me.
Exactly.
I should cram that.
Exactly. And you being a storyteller, a filmmaker, I think that there could be an interesting storyline.
Yes, I'm intrigued to make that documentary to also find out if people know that Robusta coffee originated from there.
Exactly. And how the practice of building bonds and brotherhoods or sisterhoods, for that matter, Omukago.
Yes. Yeah, in our culture, and so many Bantu people. Yeah.
Related to coffee.
Yeah, and thank you.
Yes, also, yeah. So grab yourself a cup.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much. Excited to be here.
We can start the conversation. I'm going to give you another coffee fact.
As long as you don't give me a retake.
No. This one I'll give you the answer straight.
Okay.
Do you know? Well, you don't, but I'll still ask the question that way. Do you know that the largest single coffee estate is in Uganda, in Africa?
Africa, yes. Uganda, I didn't know.
So the largest single coffee farm on the African continent is near Kakumiro in Muvende.
And whose farm is that?
It belongs, that's the, well, I don't know if that, but it belongs to Germans. So there is a big German company called Neumann that owns the business. It's called Kaweri.
Wow.
So they've got 8 square miles of coffee.
Wow.
It's a huge operation. So there is a linkage between your home, Chivale, the largest coffee. So you have a whole documentary to make.
Yeah.
So you are a mother, a storyteller. Who is Cindy Magara?
Okay. Maybe I'll start with the smallest, which is the most important.
Yep.
I'm a mother, a wife to one. A mother of 3, a wife to 1.
Somebody once said, I am married to a wife, because they had to make that distinction.
Wow.
Yeah, there you are. So, yeah.
And I'm a lecturer. I lecture at Fakery University. I lecture film and literature.
Yes.
I'm also a filmmaker.
Okay.
Are
you Ugandan?
Uganda. Okay, that's an interesting question. And actually, to be honest, when I'm asked that question, where do you come from? I'll first give you an anecdote. When I was in Australia, people used to think I'm Fijian. And
now that you say so.
people used to think I'm Fijian. And there's a way these our brothers, the Caucasians, can be so ignorant about a certain thing.
Yes,
so they would, if you're wearing a weave or like this hair, they would think it's your hair. Like, oh, wow, this is so beautiful. Can we touch? Where are you from? I'm like, Africa. Africa? We thought you're from Fiji. I'm like, I'm from Africa. Where about?
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't want some Ugandan because whenever you said you're Ugandan, they will say Idi Amin.
Yes.
Like a whole lot of things have happened in Uganda. Like Idi Amin is just a decade of that.
Man, this guy has been dead for what? He's been dead longer than he ruled us.
So In my own view, if you ask me who I am, I would like to say I'm African because South Africans think I'm South African.
Yeah, you look like a Xhosa, actually.
Not a Zulu.
No, Xhosa from the Cape, so
From the Cape.
the lower Cape, yeah.
In Kenya, they think I'm Kisi because they
Yeah.
name Magara.
Ah,
So
yeah,
when
but
you
even
say,
your skin texture, you look more like a Kisi.
The Kikuyus greet me in Kikuyu and you're like, oh, hell no. What are you talking about? In Rwanda, I was almost insulted. I was in Kigali and a young man talked to me. I'd gone to buy flowers.
Yes.
And he talked to me
In Rwanda.
and he couldn't imagine that I'm not understanding what he's saying.
So he became upset, right?
Yeah, he was upset. I can pick like 20% it being a Bantu language.
Yes.
I said, I just told him, don't worry, I know my kingdom where I come from, extended up to Rwanda and wherever. So you're part of me.
Yeah.
So I could be part of you. In Uganda, I can look like any Ugandan, really.
But for me, one of the things that's extremely important in my life is the question of identity. Not in the parochial sense of trying to be, hold on to prejudices and stereotypes. No, in the sense of anchoring, of saying who I am. So for instance, one of the things I've done with my children is I've given them clan names. I've told them if they ever want an English name, they'll have to figure that out themselves. But for me, if I give you a name, it is because I am announcing to the whole world that you belong to this clan, and therefore if you meet your relatives, you know what to do.
Do Banyankore have clan names?
Well, first of all, I'm a Muchiga.
But do Bakiga have clan names?
Yes, we do, ironically.
Oh, wow, that's
It's
nice.
the distortion, and again, for you as a storyteller, the distortion comes with colonization. So yes, we have a naming pattern that is linked to events,
and religion,
but we've also taken the biblical thing too far.
I know.
And we've given our children names that arise out of the Bible and biblical experiences and translations, and we've forgotten. So for instance, so like in my family, most of my uncles and aunties have all these biblical names. But then when we went back to check the family lineage, we have such beautiful names. So that's why I'm asking you, because our people who view us want to know who is, in the anchoring sense, who is Cindy Magara? Why is she a Magara? Where on the African continent
can she be located?
As Baganda say, Baba Zikawa, where do they bury you?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's really in the sense why I ask that question.
Yes, I really do understand where you're coming from. And
Yeah.
I think I also have the same view about it.
Yeah.
To be honest, when I went to Fakery University to do my undergraduate degree, I realized now I was too English. How can I have two English names?
Yes.
Evelyn Cindy. I have a maiden name,
Yes.
which so many people don't know. I'm Kyosaba.
Kyosaba, yes.
Yeah, which means whatever you pray for.
You get it.
You get it?
Yeah,
Which I carry like...
the Bachiga, yours is Kyosaba.
Your Bachiga is Kyoshaba.
Koshaba.
Koshaba.
Yes.
Oh, Koshaba. Then,
Yeah.
Magara, of course, is a family name.
Yes.
And you realize you can't change this name. If it were possible,
Yes.
even from the sense of us embracing religion and
Yeah.
using those Christian names,
Yeah.
to the extent some people even use them very dramatically. You find a person called Gift Kirabo, you're like,
Yeah,
what on earth is this?
Peace Busije.
I know. Yet, then our Nigerian brothers and sisters,
Yes.
they take like peace
Yes.
in a local language,
Yes.
Usinge, as a
Yes.
Christian name,
Yes.
then they add the clan name.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's why you find like Ngozi, somebody.
Okay.
Yeah. Chizoba or Zaumena. Chi is to do with God because their God is Chi.
I didn't realize that.
So they are really very
They've localized.
decolonized. They've decolonized themselves. But anyway, to answer your question directly, without beating around the bush, I can see you thinking. You can call me Amnyoro Kaswa.
Oh.
And you know what Kaswa means?
That's what I was going to ask. and how that is different from Omnyorokati.
Omnyorokati is a Mnyoro lady.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
For us, any lady is like Kati. We can't even say Muganda Kati to say because it's rude to just say
Okay.
Muganda or Kati.
Yeah, if we say Omnyorokazi, Omuganda Kazi, yes.
So Omnyoro Kaswa means Omnyoro 311.
Oh, okay.
Mother and father,
Kashushu.
Banyoro. So you can say I'm Omnyoro Kati. Yeah.
One of, maybe at some point we will Well, I think we'll talk about it because I think one of your, if not two of your movies that you've done explores the story of the Bunyoro area.
Yeah, actually one that I've done, I deliberately went and auditioned it in Bunyoro, and it is in Bunyoro. And I must tell you that the response when people saw their language being spoken on big screen, they're like, oh, we've been watching Nigeria, now this is Kinyoro. Cindy Olimunyoro Magi. They really felt so excited and so happy to see that their language is
being captured on...
on big screen, and then it also went to DSTV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I really try in that regard. Maybe we'll talk about the movies systematically when we're talking about stories. Yeah. But the most, we'd call it the story now that has caught fire, to use Ugandan English, is a series that I'm working on that is about the kings of Uganda. It was inspired by Kabalega. I wanted to tell an epic history of an epic story of Kabalega.
First of all, how many series are those?
I'm going to have three seasons.
That's 3 seasons of how many?
No, 3 seasons of the same story.
Okay.
So in my research of Kabalega, I realized Kabalega, first and foremost, is a very interesting character. His mother is from Bulega, which is in Congo.
So...
And that was Congo then.
The famous Akana.
Kabalega. Akana, Kabaganda, Kabanyoro, because that's how we name. Yeah. Kabanyoro, Kabatoro, Kabaganda.
Before we take off, because this is now a fascinating story, you have no idea how I... First tell me, Devalega, what's the relation? And they're the same people as Banyoro?
They are the same people.
Okay.
And what you must know, by the time these our brothers were sitting in Berlin,
to
divide us,
the country,
divide the country, 3/4 of Bunyoro remained in Congo.
Okay.
Yeah.
The physical kingdom or community of the people
who spoke even the same language
remained on the other side.
On the other side. So Kabalega's mother was from Bulega, of the Balega people, which some people call Barega.
Remind me, who was Kabalega's father?
Kamurasi.
Kamurasi, I thought so, So Kamurasi had a wife from Bulega.
Bulega.
Good.
A chief's daughter. She was a beautiful woman. She was just like a concubine. But he had an official wife. And that is a very interesting story that a child from a concubine becomes the king.
How?
And he even did, he grew up knowing he won't be the king. So he was not even interested in becoming a king. So when I did that research, I realized that just the childhood of Kabalega can make a very interesting movie. And then when you research further, you cannot talk about Kabalega without Mwanga. You cannot talk about Kabalega without Kiebambe of Toro. Because remember, when Kabalega takes over, he wanted to expand his kingdom. Whoever had, and Toro had broken away like about 40 years earlier to Kabalega. And he's like, I'll start with Toro, which has our cousins who have just broken away. And the king then was apparently his uncle or cousin. So he took it slow, but you know what? Like ignited him to go and attack Toro. They beat his cow, favorite cow, Bihogo. Like, that's what he's done, because in Toro, is it Kiegegwa? That was the royal ranch. So even when Toro had broken away, the kings of the Kabalega, the cows of Kabalega were being grazed from there.
Is that correct?
So they said, oh, they've beaten my cow, go and attack Toro. So he annexes Toro again.
Who was the king then?
Kiebambe, I think.
The third, I think, or the second. I think it must be the second.
Yeah, it must be Kiebambe. The first.
The
second.
The second,
The second, because the first had died, who was apparently his uncle.
Yes. You know, this story is not ending. We are going to finish it.
And look, when you look at that story, you're like, this is extremely interesting. Our history, is a movie in itself. You don't even have to exaggerate anything. The way things appear, you just have to follow that.
I'm just going to ask you, since you went and researched it, what fascinating is Abarusura.
Abarusura. Abarusura.
Did you know that I knew that?
Of course you would know.
Okay.
Being a Mnyakitala, you would know.
Yes.
Yeah, you
so
would know.
Is he the one who puts together that force?
No, the force was already there, but he organized it into a modern army, and he had like 12 battalions. He had the CIDs, I've forgotten how they call them in Runyoro. He had the naval. You can't imagine the level of development these guys were at.
Wow.
He had the Ababogora, the ones who would go and kill the hitmen and whatever.
The snipers.
Yeah, the snipers of today. Now, when you look at it, you're like, this is extremely interesting. But in total, he had like 12.
Battalions.
No,
an organized force.
No, subcategories. I don't know the diction they use. Yeah. Of course, the battalions were very many. And he had like these chiefdoms and every, like, for example, if, county had its own chief and an army. So what he did before him, every county had a chief, and the chief, the head of that county, had an army. So whenever there was any need to gather this army, the king would call upon them. So what Kabushenga did was to abolish all those and put his army as a standing army so that he controlled. That's how he avoided breakaways. And it's because of that that Bunyoro kept reducing. A king would have a son as a head, for example, in the head of Toro. And the son says, oh, my father is not dying. I think, you know, he's old. I'm going to declare myself a king. And the king is not going to go and fight his son.
No, that's correct,
And the son will prepare and have his own army. He's like, I'm not going to fight my son, so let it go. So Kabushenga abolished that and established a standing army that was controlled by him.
I want to ask you, I mean, in your mind, I want to understand, how did you arrive at saying this is really a good story idea? How? Yeah, because we all see mundane stuff every day. How do you judge and say, this is it?
Of course, with my background that I studied literature. And even at Makerere University, I'll tell you this, I was among the first people to be taught cinema by a very interesting person, Professor Dominic Dupio, a nun.
Really?
I actually want to make a documentary about her.
Okay.
So the first professor of film, who is my mentor, is a nun, which is also a very beginning point for a story.
A Ugandan nun?
A Ugandan nun, my friend. You're like, how does this nun become
a filmmaker? And
a professor of film, yes, with her veil and all.
Wow.
Something you don't even expect of a nun. That's how you really arrive at a good story. The other day I was watching Hollywood storyteller saying, a good story begins at the wow.
So that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, the wow.
How does, you know, that I'm trying to think, and a kid sitting out there thinking, I want to be a filmmaker. How in your mind do you arrive at the wow? What has been going on? Like in your case, you must have had things nagging at you. How did you mentally process them?
Yes, sure. Like, for example, I just use this simple example of a nun. Assuming I'm telling you a story, I'm like, this is me, I'm a filmmaker. Where did you learn film from? So many people used to ask me that when I started making my first film. I'll go looking for funding. They're like, are you sure you're not a crook? Do Ugandans make movies? Do Ugandans study movies? Who are you? You studied film from Uganda? So you just have to tell the whole story. And I was told at Makerere University by where, the literature department, who are your lecturers? You're like, oh, there's this nun. So that's why you're like, a nun, filmmaking, what do you expect of a nun?
It doesn't get worse.
That's how really story ideas come up. But for me, of course, studying literature and maybe to even pick what my professor thought then, or what is really acceptable, there's a small difference between film and literature. And before there is a film, there is the literature. That is the story.
The written script.
Yeah, the script. So we felt in the literature department that the students of literature are the first people to teach how to write scripts. They will write scripts, then the filmmakers, the producers, wherever they are, they will have really sensible material to produce. And what happens in our case is that everybody wants to be a storyteller, yet they don't have the ability, the skill to even distill a story, for example, to know what is a good story. Is this material you should put out? Why? Of what benefit? Like someone may ask you, okay, you're telling us Kabushenga's story now. Do people want to live? Do people want to know 100 years ago? How relevant is it today? No? This is what I'm going to study. I got an A in literature. This is something I love, really. I'm going to do this. So the conversation would be, what are you going to do with literature?
Yes.
They said, I'm going to be a writer. There's Goret Kiomhendo. Fortunately, she's even a Mnyorokati. Yeah, she's made it big. There's FILMMAKING. I used to present my poems there. I had a collection of short stories. Then in third year, this professor, the Nan, begins to teach film. We were the first class. I think she had really struggled even convincing the guys at Senate that I'm going to teach cinema. And this is very important. This is where we are going. This is the future.
Yes.
So they pick a few of us to do cinema.
Okay.
I was extremely fascinated by the link between cinema and literature, especially African literature, because literature is not just literature for Africa. Our literature is not just for entertainment. It's not Harry Potter. It's for a purpose. You pass a message. You as a writer, you want to improve your society. You want to contribute to development.
Right.
So similarly, when you looked at the history of African cinema, it coincided with, or the significance of African cinema coincided with the significance of African literature. I said, okay, I'm going to make movies and only movies. So I get a job as a teaching assistant lecturer at Fakery University. Right. And because of my films, really, because I had made a movie and what I had started, I had gone out and practiced it. Yes. So when I was studying my MA, of course, this being an African university, we do a lot of African literature. So we're studying the Epic of Sundiata.
Wow.
So you know Sundiata. Yes. I said, okay, we're reading these epics of great African men from other parts of Africa. We've got these epic characters here. Kabushenga. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
And the students I was tutoring then, really as an assistant lecturer, you only do tutoring. First years and mentoring them in a way. They knew they were being taught by celebrity, because at that time, of sorts.
Yes.
What I don't really like, because I used to be in papers and here and there. And them just knowing we are taught by a filmmaker, in third year we'll do film. It really motivates them the more. So they asked me, they kept asking me, Madam, the word I don't like being called. When are you making the next film? When can we appear in your next film? So I told them, do you know what? I've given filmmaking a break to focus on other things. One of them being, I'm doing a master's. I am teaching. I've got other responsibilities at home, so I won't be actively making movies. But when I come back to make movies, I'm going to do a story of Kabushenga.
Wow.
And so, to tell you this, I've slept with this story, excuse my language.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm using a metaphor to just show you how it's been so close to me.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been with it for the last 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, thinking about it. I got research assistants, some of them,
So, and that's where I want you to, because a lot of our people, especially the ones that we are working with on this, we're trying to help through these conversations, is they think that, you can just pick up a camcorder or some kind of camera and just go and start filming, and tomorrow you have a documentary or you have a movie or whatever it is. And yet you have just talked about 10 years of ruminating, 10 years of finding out information. Just break down for me, how does that process work of arriving at sufficient material for you to say, now I'm going to start shooting?
This is it. First and foremost, I think you should be very passionate. You should be convinced, like I was convinced.
Yes.
Because of that lecture I had in Seminar Room 7 at Fakery University. And we were studying the Epic of Sundiata. And I said, we've got a lot of epic characters. This is what I must do. I got convinced about it, started to do the research. So people take research for granted. And I'll tell you the other day...
they don't just take it for granted, they don't do it at all.
Because... they don't do it. I'm just trying to be as
polite as you can possibly be.
With my words. The other day I met my mentor. I introduced her to a team that I'm working with. I've set a preliminary team of people I will work with on this Kabushenga series, which is already titled, it's called Conquer or Die.
Wow.
Conquer or Die. And she said, I'm glad you're going to do this. I've heard, of course, I've heard a lot of people say they want to do movies about our history, it's good that at least they will know, or they will see someone who knows the value of research as a PhD
Wow.
holder. Of course, she just took it for granted. With my background, I should know what is the value of
research.
Yes. So people, you make a, by being a writer, being a creative, or even being a musician. That's why you see, like, a musician should be really a griot, is another way of storytelling. For example, the best.
My favorite one is the chap from Mali who is
Keita,
Salif Keita.
Salif Keita.
Absolutely. I mean, he's just got that. I mean, I don't understand the language.
Yes.
But just listening to his voice.
Yeah, the soothing.
Exactly. The thing.
And if you could understand his words, sorry to cut you short.
No,
if you
sure.
could understand his words, you will really fall in love with it, because those West Africans are at another level.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, Sembene Usman, who was a post office clerk who became a huge movie maker.
He's the grandfather of African cinema, revered.
He's like a god.
Yeah.
What I was going to say to you is, in terms of these historical things, for instance, I used to assume that the colonizers came one day with guns and forced all of us to... Then I read the story of the kingdom of Karagwe, and I was amazed at how long the Germans had been living in northwestern Tanzania and in Rwanda as ordinary citizens before they overthrew. So maybe we haven't told the colonial story, so I'm really looking forward to what you come up with. But I want to take you back to your own history as Cindy, and ask, what is it about your childhood experiences, or maybe upbringing, whatever it was, that developed your love and your passion for storytelling in a literary sense?
I don't even think I can locate it.
Well, for me, I can tell you. I can tell you
Yeah.
that one of the reasons I think I have ended up in, because at one point I was doing radio broadcast. Now here I am having conversations with you. In my family, in the home where I grew up, so we were, I had cousins and all. And because we didn't have television, we spent time talking to each other. So there was always a competition as to who was the master storyteller and who was the most powerful orator. And there's no money for guessing who won. But
Okay.
no, the reason I'm asking that is that sometimes when people are reflecting on who they are and wanting to figure out which direction they want to go, is you then go back to your past.
And
So, yeah.
my answer was almost going to go to that,
Yeah.
and possibly expand that.
Yes.
And this is one thing I also discovered in my research. Yeah, I'm doing a PhD on the themes and aesthetics of East African cinema. I wanted to see what is this style that comes out of our movies.
Yes.
And I had a conversation with most of the filmmakers I had selected to study. Whose films I selected to study from Rwanda, from Tanzania, from here. Because I did the entire East African region, including South Sudan.
Yeah.
And of course, this was informed by what I've studied, because there's what you know, what other scholars have talked about African cinema or even literature. The most greatest influence is our oral tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Africans are natural storytellers. And we are orate vis-a-vis
Written.
literate.
Literary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we are more orate. And I found even that as not really a cultural shock at my level. Like when I went out of this country,
Yeah.
you would find that a Mzungu wants you to just text what you want to say,
Yes.
as opposed to a Ugandan who want you to call.
Yes.
Call and tell me what you want to say. Let's talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
For them, they want you to text.
Yes.
Calling them, you must ask them, is it okay? I call you. Do you have time?
Yes.
Yeah, do you have time for this conversation? But if you text, they will reply.
Immediately.
Yeah, because it's part of their culture. They are more literate, everything they read,
Yes.
most of them stay alone. But for us, we listen to story. You can even take hearsay as the real gospel truth. What has happened? This one tells you, this is what happened there. And possibly, even if it's changed, like it always changes.
One of the most fascinating, it was a tragic incident, but everybody had pictures and stories of the assassination and the shooting of Kawesi. But people were still calling our office when I was still working at Vision to say, is it true? because they want, as you say, they wanted to hear, an oral. One of the most interesting things that you say is if you looked at our drinking habits. So the Africans will sit around a pot or sit in a...
Yeah, around the fireplace, or even how our bars are constructed, the traditional bars, round and the pot.
Exactly, to facilitate the oral conversation.
Yeah.
Those people sit in a line facing a wall and they don't talk to each other even over a beer. So I come back to you on the question of...
What influenced me, and possibly to cut you short, keep your question. So for me, it's not even family. I have people who have studied literature in my family, one of them being my grand uncle, Kasaija. He did literature. Even my grandpa, my grand uncle, Henry Kajura, is a very good storyteller.
Oh, yes, he is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
you sit with him, he's so gentle, he will tell you stories, he will crack you.
Yes, yes.
With his sense of humor.
Yes, maybe your other cousin, Edgar Gava, is another dramatic storyteller.
And people in my family love to laugh.
I don't know if what's his name is also a member of your family, Kabagambe. Kalisa.
Kalisa. He's not really so close to our family.
Yeah, but he's another dramatic. He's actually the one who educated me about Amarusura. So yes. And what is the other one?
He's even now called Omujuara Kondo.
Omujuara Kondo, yes, he was telling you about Omujuara Kondo.
Honor. Not really part of our family, though we come from the same area.
Okay.
So even maybe studying literature, I studied literature from S3.
Okay.
Yes, I've had that literary background. So I think literature in a way teaches you to be analytical, to see the world differently.
Well, yeah, because first of all, it opens you up to material.
Up to material, and you're always critiquing, you're always analyzing a character. It even shapes how you behave in a way.
Yes.
So, like I told you, even when I reached campus to study literature, because I was studying something I love, I wanted to be a writer.
Yes.
So it comes naturally, and of course with all this background, my grandmother told me stories, my mother told me stories.
Yes.
And even at Makerere University itself, you study a course called oral literature, where you're encouraged to dig deep into your oral stories from your region. Yeah, some people even do research on that to graduate. For me, I had to write a film script to graduate.
Okay.
So you're already being taught to become practical in that sense. So if you have just a little bit of push, you end up. So one of the things that I look back to in my working life was the setting up of Bukede TV, and the fascinating thing at that time for me was these translated movies. What do you think of that innovation as a method? I'm going to ask for my opinion.
I want to know. Please give it, because you see, all these... Okay, go ahead.
It again goes back to us as a people, that we love the orate vis-a-vis the literate.
Yes.
And we love someone telling you the story.
Yes.
And when I had a conversation with Soleya at that time, I was trying to discuss with them about the trend they were taking with their hostel.
Exactly.
And trying to maybe encourage them in a way to put some philosophical thought.
Let me first stop you, because I had wanted to ask that question, then I left it. So, how important is philosophy in life and in shaping how you deliver your message? Why is it such an important element?
No, because before you even start to write, it must be something deep down that you feel that if I don't say this, the world is going to miss out something.
Or if I say it, it will have a fundamental effect on the world.
Yes, fundamental effect on the world. So that is the beginning point of that key message. Yeah, for example, if you look at Ngugi wa Thiong'o, a famous writer from East Africa. When you read his work, you even see which ideology, Marxism ideology, behind his work.
And for me, he influenced me a great deal here.
Look at Usman Sembene, Marxism, realism, putting the ordinary people at the forefront. Who are their main characters? Ordinary people doing things and making things happen, and possibly presenting the people who pretend or we assume to be the elites, failing to do things. So in the end, when you look at their literature, they're trying to show we we got, for example, independence.
Yeah.
Like, for example, from Sembene's film called Hala. We got independence, but Hala means impotence. So he uses the symbol of impotence.
Okay.
And looks how he picks just that symbol of impotence.
Yes.
Erectile dysfunction of a man.
Yes.
And it's a title which was original of his book.
Yes.
And he makes a movie out of it.
Yes.
And the main character is this El Haji,
Yes.
who is acquiring a third wife.
Yes.
And on that night,
Yes.
he fails to function.
Wow. So that's...
And he just picks that image and correlates. And of course, this is a middle class, a leader, and all the people around him, there would be the head of Kamas, possibly maybe an equivalent of a president. And that is a very important matter for them to discuss. Haji has not deflowered the bride.
I remember that. I remember that.
He goes on the quest to get treatment. He must achieve this. And the movie, as plain as that is just a small concept that Sembene uses to craft a story that is going to show us that we got independence, but these, our leaders, are impotent. So they've not made us achieve.
So let me see if I understand you well, Cindy, that there are many ways, many of them seemingly mundane and subtle, that you can use to deliver a powerful
message. Like, look at Animal Farm.
I want to go back to erectile dysfunction, because basically you might think that you're dealing with a human condition, but actually you're talking about the stillbirth of the African independence.
Yes, exactly. And then every writer, every creative, when you think about that very important thing you must deliver, how are you going to deliver it? Of course, what are the factors? Why have African writers, or why do writers at a certain era decide to be, for example, use symbolism, decide to be subtle? Maybe it's because of, how do they call it? I'm forgetting the right word. Where you censor. It's because of censorship?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, for example, in Uganda...
Euphemism?
Yeah. No, you use euphemism because of censorship.
Yes.
That if you go direct,
yes, you will...
the government is going to come at you.
Yes.
Your work won't be published.
You see, sorry to divert you and barge in, but one of my favorite characters in King Lear was the court jester. I always like comedians. They have the most effective delivery mechanism. They can criticize you, and you will laugh about it.
You think he's just a drunk? He's just a comedian. In Uganda, they use a drunk
at the village funeral to tell the people of Kampala.
They use a drunk character.
Yeah.
Or you know, in our oral tradition, you use a mad person, a madman. But that madman is the one communicating the most significant message in that piece. So in other words, a writer, a filmmaker should have that most significant message. So that's why you must be really a person who thinks about...
So a significant message that you want to deliver on one part, and a very creative...
If I'm not there, you know, Cindy thinks like that. Cindy is not about just shooting. What is that shot communicating?
Yeah.
It's not about a certain line. What is that line? What is the essence? Is it important that it must be there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we sit and brainstorm on how we are going to make a feature film. They wanted a documentary. I told them Ugandans don't like watching documentaries.
Yes.
If you're going to tell them this is how they vote, this is how they register, it's so mundane, it's so, you know, what are they talking about?
Exactly.
Government and their issues. We know who to vote and how to vote anyway.
Yes.
So we used the concept of football. So I'm trying to show you how you get creative. We use the concept of football.
Yes.
The movie is titled Fair Play. Yes. So it's about this team of village footballers. They play football in a certain village X. And one evening they are playing their football. A politician comes around with a henchman, with these Kanyama people. And he tells them, stop playing football from here. We are going to use this pitch. You used to always complain you have no jobs. So we're going to bring investors here. They're like, excuse me, this is our pitch.
Yes.
So I'm creating the conflict.
Okay.
This is our pitch. Of course, there must be conflict in any story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, otherwise,
Yeah. This is our pitch. We want our pitch. So as they are going home, of course, they are chased off the pitch. As they are going home, hen-pecked, heads down, they hear an announcement on radio. There's going to be a by-election of the local council there's going to be a local council election which will coincide with the by-election of the area MP. They're like, we are going to vote this. For them, their interest is that councillor who came to chase them out of the pitch.
Wow.
We are going to vote this guy out. Then they sit as a team. You know, these are footballers.
Yes.
And they have a captain. They're like, okay, do you have a card? Will you be able to vote? So
Okay,
how do we do this?
How do we actually participate?
Participate and vote this guy out. So the electoral process is taught in that way.
Without you having to come directly.
Come direct and bore them. So this is the story. Even when people begin to watch that movie, it also showed on Africa Magic. Actually, people from other African countries enjoyed it more. They would comment.
And it's more universal than
Yeah, of course
if
it's
you
universal. They're like, wow. So the whole process. In fact, at one time, one of the captain even becomes a candidate. He contests with that person. And I really wanted to, because I took time to think about this.
Yes.
In this country, where I'm born in the 80s, possibly I don't know much, but we became we embraced multi-party politics.
I was in high school then, so I know what was going on.
We embraced multi-party politics just a couple of years,
It's like
few decades ago.
Yes.
So, do we even know what multi-party politics is? So that is my level of thinking as a writer. What am I going to tell the person watching this?
Yeah.
What is multi-party politics? How about if we are a family, I'm husband and wife, I support FDC and husband supports NRM, do we have to fight over that?
One of the tragedies of my family was
But people
that
do.
in the 1980s, so my grandfather was UPC and my grandmother was UPM, and the villagers who were supporting UPC came and helped my grandfather to chase away his wife, and she was away. This is true. She was away she went to live in her brother's place for about 3 years, and it's only because my grandfather got a stroke and there was no one to look after him.
They brought her back.
They brought her back. But that's not even the most twisted ironies of all of them. It is that 2 years later, Museveni was in government, and suddenly my grandmother was the most powerful woman in the house.
Wow.
Because she had been...
supporting UPM.
Exactly.
Wow.
But let me bring you back to, I know I asked about, but I want you to tell me about people like Ashraf Semogere, people like Mariam Ndegire.
Interesting storyteller. Ashraf.
Ashraf, yes. And the reason I'm asking you is because people may be mistaken into believing that, people who tell their stories through movies must be of a certain sophisticated, literate, educated type of people. And yet, I just talked to you about Sembene Usman, who was just a post office clerk. Then there's Ashraf Semogere. How is it that these people, what is it? Tell me.
It's about them being deep in terms of what do they really want to say. So you don't have to first go to school.
Stop there. Stop there. What is depth?
Depth.
I'm asking because it's important. People think they have depth and gravitas. But it sometimes, distresses me to see how shallow we can sometimes be.
Yes, we can be about certain things.
So that's why I want to define for me depth and then fit for me Ashraf in this context.
Deep is where, in this context, you have an idea that you want to say to the world.
Yeah.
You're very passionate about it, research about it. For example, when we wanted to create fair play, we had to go and research what are the basic day-to-day conflicts that people face during electoral process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, someone will find their poster has been defaced, then they fight over that. People will fight over colors, people will fight over t-shirts.
Effigies,
Yes, effigies. So you do your research, then you're like, okay, this is it. I'm going to present it this way, and deeply I want to pass this message.
I'll
so that is thinking deeply.
I'll tell you, if you ever have to go another one like that. So driving through a trading center. So on one side, a big poster of the president, and it is decorated and it has its things around it. And on the other side, there's one of Bobby Wine, also decorated. And there were two guys, one on this side, one on the other side, each wiping the poster and making sure there is Coca-Cola.
I know.
What? I mean, those are the... So
So you as a filmmaker or as a writer, you must be observant.
Okay.
Yeah, be observant.
You have to be observant.
That's why I use the word philosophy, a philosopher of the society. Think, observe society, think and see, okay, when I pick this
so
kind
it's
of...
the depth of thought, the thought process.
Yes, of thought process about that theme, that subject that you want to portray. Otherwise, if you don't really spend time with it, you're going to be shallow. Because
So you
you have
just
to
become popular, just
yeah,
pop stuff.
it's common, something that people know, and or possibly you'll even become predictable. They just watch it like, oh, we know where she's going.
Wow,
Yeah,
so you need to be able to come from an angle that people least expect for you to...
the angle people know to the end that people least expect.
So you're still telling me about Ashraf.
Yeah, so Ashraf, of course, with his background, I think he passionately loves stories.
Okay.
I did one of his movies for my master's. I did my master's, I wrote about Ugandan cinema.
Yes.
The thesis is titled Symbolism in Ugandan Film.
Yeah.
So that's why for my PhD I decided to go East African.
Yes.
Because I'd already, and the movies are few. The industry is young here. So Ashraf, I started one of his movies, Mukajanga. Yeah, he represented that Mukajanga and how he brutally massacred the martyrs. Of course, he's a natural storyteller. So what he has to do is get his story and get a professional writer so that they put his story and give it that depth that will make it last forever, that will make it be cited forever. Like, for example, we cite Jonathan Swift's Animal Farm.
Yeah.
It's not that in every work you do, there will be that work with an X factor.
Yes, yes.
So he has a natural X factor to tell stories, and most importantly, comic.
So he can see a story opportunity in all sorts of situations.
And even see how it should go. And I think he must have grown up from a very rich storytelling
family or background.
And considering his background, he's really natural. And that's why I studied his work.
Yeah.
They are very...
Because I'll tell you, I know him. And in my various conversations with him, because remember, here I was as a business executive trying to develop a television business.
Content.
I desperately needed content. And here is Ashraf Semogiri, seemingly chaotic. He actually, I said, how can this guy possibly even make a movie? But he had a thing running running in his brain.
And have you seen his posts on Facebook?
No, I haven't actually been following him for a while.
I wish you could follow. That guy is deep.
I'm going to check him out.
Whether he's talking about politics, he's really deep. He's an intelligent man. And that's the kind of people who should make movies. Yeah.
So, in terms...
The kind of people who should write. Yeah.
Okay, now I have to ask you this as well. Why do we fail to capture our own stories? Why do we fail to be our own narrators? What is it that fails?
I've understood where you're going. I've not misunderstood you. The reason we fail, we've got a whole lot of stories, and we've got so many storytellers.
Exactly.
Why we fail, or you find so many stories that look so ordinary, so mundane, so, you know, of course, putting aside the issue of technicality, we're also lacking in that because we don't have film schools and all. The reason we fail is because we copy a lot. Ugandans are copycats.
Why does this story follow me everywhere? I can tell you, we've been interviewing people on this kind of conversation for now, almost 130, 140 days. That imitation thing keeps coming back.
And that one should take you even to how we invented VJs, the video jokers. There's a question I dodged because we are talking too much, which is also okay. It's good to let the brain flow. Yeah. We created VJs. When you just look at it from a narrow sense, we look very creative.
Yes.
Yeah, because in the entire East Africa, in the entire region, it is only in Uganda where we're having VJs.
Yes, only.
At a macro level, it's
Yes.
because we lack creativity.
Yes.
We don't have our own movies to sell.
No, we don't.
So what we do is get other people's movies, try to localize them.
Yes.
We have someone who pretends he has understood the whole story better. He will tell you about Jet Li and how the kick is going.
Yes.
To the extent of being so boring. To tell you that
To try and interpret what's going on in the guy's heart.
Yeah, katiteke against the left. Because film is audiovisual. People must see.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to tell them what they can see.
Yes, you have to allow their own imagination to.
And what becomes very creative is that this person goes beyond just telling you what is in the movie. He also adds his own opinion.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
He also adds his own opinion. So you find interesting things. This one you won't even believe it, that they are even VJing Luganda movies.
Oh, now that.
Yes.
Okay, now that.
Annoyingly so.
Now that I don't agree. I mean, if it was a German movie, yeah.
Yes. If it's an English movie, you think, okay, they are trying to interpret this film for those ones who cannot access the language.
Okay, so let me.
Even VJing Uganda movies.
So what the concept you're talking about there is that the lack of originality, the person doesn't know what they can bring to the table, now tries to imitate and thinks they can do a better, or they have a better way of doing the same
A
thing.
rendition of the other, of course, without being even creative, and not really thanks in a bad way to our corporate law.
Yeah.
What even ignited the Ugandan cinema, your very brilliant Ashraf and so many other filmmakers like that, was the success of Nigerian movies here.
Yes.
But all those Nigerian movies, or even Hollywood movies that were very popular here,
Yes.
no one had bought rights to show them. They were just duplicating other people's movies and selling them on the street.
Yeah.
That is cheating.
Yes.
That is fakery.
Yes.
You take that to another level, you begin to make a rendition of that person's movie.
Yes, and then you
which you have no right.
You see,
you didn't even buy the CD.
You see, agree, and that's what happened. Because I'll tell you a bit of, because I was deeply involved in the setting up of Bukele TV. I thought long and hard about an entry point into the TV industry, because at that point it was being dominated by WBS and NTV, and record was beginning to emerge. So I thought, how can I enter? I cannot enter it by trying to outdo NTV, what NTV does. So my entry point was language. I said, let me enter in a market with a language that is accessible to a broad majority. When we did that, the first reaction of all the players was laughter. Then they discovered 9 to 8 months later on that I was laughing all the way to the bank. And then everybody started to try and come up with a Bukele type of delivery mechanism. But the question in terms of imagination and creativity there is, how do you, from your point of view, how do you stand out? How do you be unique and still have an appeal? Is the question that I would put to somebody like you who is a creative.
I think it's by understanding your audience.
Okay, great.
You have to understand your audience.
Yeah.
And Uganda, generally, people like comedy. They like slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. People like things that will make them laugh.
By the way, you said you were born in the 80s. So there is a political reason for that, by the way.
For us.
Yeah, for comedy.
For comedy. I think it's more of the 70s. The influence
for that is that it became the main method of delivering a very serious message without you being killed.
Yeah. Censorship.
Censorship, yes, but also life risk. Because you see, and also the other thing is, life was so hard. I don't know if people really...
Yeah, life was so hard, so comedy was a point for people to relieve.
What do you call it? Dramatic relief? What do you call it?
Yeah, to entertain themselves. They don't want to watch something serious. Already, it's like moving here in Uganda. Horror happens daily on the street. You watch the news. It is a perfect horror film without effects. Like, oh man.
Reality TV.
You know, watching news in Uganda is so anyway, so when you create a Ugandan horror film, mimicking a Hollywood film, because you will find you hardly get an original
Well,
horror film. They will mimic
life is already imitating fiction.
And it's more real.
Yes.
Better than so anyway, you've got to know your audience, and that's why I say know your audience and let at least the message stand for itself. Let people will appreciate your art. Yeah. Be there, and let people who want to focus on making slapstick comedy also live. Yeah. Like having studied, for me personally, as a creative, having studied the cinescape, the cinescape of Uganda, or even East Africa, I said I'm only going to make Afro histories and children's
so
cinema.
I'm glad that you bring that up. What are the different storytelling
genres?
Options exactly?
Genres.
For which, so I'm sitting there like wondering, what are the areas where I can go and...
You can go in, or as a producer.
Yeah, well, maybe. So what are those in terms of film that people can look at?
Also, of course, ordinary people may not really understand them. In academia, people may it. But here, what I can say for our audience is that we've got dramas. Yes. Yeah, social dramas. Yes. Like even my film Fair Play is just a social drama. Yeah. Dramas in people's daily lives. Yeah. We've got even the series dramas that go on TV. Yeah. Yeah. We've got comedies. And today, really what is selling is a combination of them. Yeah. You hardly find an action film which is just action. Yeah. It will have a bit of drama, action. Apart
from my friend in Wakaliga.
Wakaliwood. Yeah. I love him.
Yeah, he's a great, I mean, he's an absolutely phenomenal character. Yeah.
Interesting character.
Yes.
And at least he's created a niche for himself. Yes. And that's another way you can do things. Create a niche. Focus on action. Yeah. Try and show Hollywood you spent billions of dollars to make an action film. I'm going to make an action film.
Out of no money.
With very little money. Yeah. So personally, I only want to focus on history. Yeah. There's a whole lot people can do. Yeah. Because our history is not told.
Did you watch I forget the name of it was part history, part documentary, part movie.
By which filmmaker? Oh.
He's a Dutch guy, actually, but he tells the story of Sarah Amin. Actually, I forget the name of the movie. I'll try and find it and get it for you. It's a very small...
short documentary.
Yeah, but it's the story of the life of Jerry, I think it's Jesse Kasidivu, who was the husband of Sarah Amin.
Before Amin snatched her away.
And he actually tells that whole story. And it's fascinating, the things that he brings out. So you could just have a look at that. But what just to pick up on that, I mean, it's like saying, what you're saying is the history, the Afro history. There are all sorts of different genres that people can...
Yeah, different genres. Even Afro history could take up different genres. Genres is just a type you choose how to present. Like we all write literature. I could write, Susan Kiguli, a lecturer from Fakery University, has written poetry about Amin era.
Now talk about
somebody... You can use poetry.
Talk about somebody who has depth.
Who has depth.
That's Susan, right?
Kiguli.
Has so much...
Yeah. And of course, as a poet, you imagine there are so many ways to present something. Yes. There's prose, for example, in literature. You can use prose. Yeah. You can, even in prose, you can just use a short story. Yeah. It is a short story, but very hard to write. Yes. Then you can use poetry. Poetry, that means you're going to condense. Yeah. Choose the right word. Every word must be very, very important. You have to be as keen, as observant. So you represent what somebody else will represent in a novel. You put it in a one-page, or two-stanza poem. So it comes naturally.
I used to struggle with Soyinka for those reasons.
Yeah, I know. No, Soyinka, it is his diction.
Yes.
The guy, anyway, he has a laureate in English language.
Exactly.
He knows more English than Englishmen. So...
But that's what is fascinating, is that you watch interviews by those people and it just shows you how much thought.
Or even when you read their work. We read Kongi's Harvest in high school.
Yes.
So by the time you complete high school, you're 18, 19, you are really thinking so deeply about politics.
Yes.
Because of, then we read Darkness at Noon.
Then you read
A-level. You think so
The Lion and the Jewel.
Yeah. The Lion and Simple story about this beautiful girl.
I am in Ngugi East. That was my I mean, I've read everything about him. But the book that has remained with me is A Grain of Wheat. I mean, it's an old book, but you still feel the...
Yeah, you still feel. And even his style, how you represent, how you decide to lay facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, his narrative structure. You start with the beginning up to the end, you start with the end, then bring the middle. He's such an interesting storyteller.
So, one of the things I wanted you to talk about, and again, for the benefit of our guys, is, okay, so how do you balance between that as a passion in order to deliver a really, really good job and just the everyday need to survive as a human being and earn a living? And so where there's a contradiction between the ability of film to deliver an income and the need to make compromises in order to, I don't know if I make sense to you.
Yeah, you really do make sense. And you've brought me on. I'll just tell you my whole life.
Yes.
My story with filmmaking.
Please.
So when I finished university, I've already told you that I was extremely passionate about making movies.
Yeah.
And I said, I think we had analyzed and discussed that film is audiovisual.
Yes.
Literature is literary. Someone has to read. That means must be educated.
Yes.
Must be able to see and understand.
Yes.
While for film, you just see, and even if you don't know the language, by the way,
Yeah, that's true.
you will understand the story.
Yeah.
I used to watch Chinese films because of the way they are.
Oh, Charlie Chaplin never said a word.
You know, silent cinema.
Yeah.
So I said, this is the most interesting way I'm going to present all my ideas. So, and to be honest, at that time, I think 24 years, I saw myself as this philosopher. You know, you want to practice whatever you studied. Be deep, be detailed, pass the message, direct society. You are the most important person. So you think, what am I even going to present first? Then I said, okay, well, I studied on government sponsorship. The only way I can give back to society at that age is by making a movie about HIV/AIDS.
Good.
And as a female, of course, at that time you're already having theory in mind.
Yes.
I will have, as a female, I will have a female lead character.
Good.
Hell no, I'm not going to put...
You're breaking ground now.
I'm not going to make a male character. Men have dominated. After all, men are the... most filmmakers are men, most writers
we need to rebalance this gender thing.
So we are trying to push our way somewhere. So the finance comes in. Film is very expensive. How are you going to make this? I didn't even want to work. I didn't want to make a job. I wanted to think. You know, in Hollywood or elsewhere, people, of course, they get funding. You spend one whole year writing, thinking. I don't think those people are more brilliant than we are.
No.
But they just have the space.
Yes.
Yeah, they have the space.
Without having to worry where the next meal is going to come from.
Whether you have bread or not.
Yeah.
So anyway, I struggled to get funding for that.
Oh, wow.
I made most of people, I was able to convince them to give me pro bono. Most of the guys who acted or worked as the technical team I had studied with, and I kept telling them we are going to make Uganda's first professional film. Okay. And at that time, only Ashraf had made a movie, Roses in the Rain, which he made with some Nigerian, I think Jacques Oji was here to act.
Oji, yes.
Jacques Oji was here. So they wanted to, like, because I think Ashraf had convinced them, Ugandans love Nigerian movies. Yeah. Everybody was watching Nigerian movies. So they said, okay, we can tap that market and also take movies from Uganda to Nigeria. And of course, knowing, having studied cinema, you're like, I don't think we were going to make a first professional film. First and foremost, it will be a film that will come out, we take it to cinema. And thank goodness, it was the first Ugandan film to go to Cineplex. Really? First Ugandan film to go to DSTV. Because I really wanted to make professional filmmaking and make film as a business. Right. So that's how I used to go to so many, all the corporate companies and convince them I want to make a movie. Like, Ugandans, a movie. And of course I was so tiny. Yeah. Nobody was going to believe you. Are you sure you're not, even some Indian who asked me, are you sure you're not a con woman? I'm like, why am I in your office? Honestly. Yes. So that is the background. I, as one of the first filmmakers, I was operating in. Yeah. And then you come to the technical team. I've started the theory. We made a film at campus. DPO, Professor DPO wrote the script and we participated to give us the practical aspect.
Yeah.
But what we had mastered was how to write a good script, how to inject all the ideas and all the philosophy into it. And how to critique a good film.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what you didn't have was how that then becomes a picture.
To make it.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, if you know that this is good lighting,
yeah,
that's a good shot,
yeah,
and that shot, a close-up means this in that story,
yeah,
yeah, you would know. But again, I wrote, I was directing, I was producing, so I must get a camera person. The only camera people you would get were people used to handle weddings.
And music videos.
Yeah. Even music videos at that time were really so pathetic. they are fair.
Yeah.
Were extremely pathetic.
Yes.
They are fair, though even the storylines are still lacking.
Yeah,
because they don't conceptualize.
Yes.
They need someone to see what is the song,
yeah,
and how do we represent this message.
Okay.
So we're still lacking in so many ways. Anyway, this is the critical me, but now the creative me.
Yeah.
So I get this camera person who does events, so you will block. I even bought a book. My father bought me my first camera, but it couldn't even film.
Right.
So this guy was doing events, had a good camera. He allowed to give it to me, he allowed to film. So you block the scene. So we'll start with this, take one will be long shot, take two will be this, then we'll get to a close-up. So when we do take one, remember we have only one camera.
Yeah.
You're going to film the same thing 3 times. So when you are on the second, or even still in the wide shot,
yeah,
and our Ugandan actors are very talented, by the way.
Yeah.
Good stories, good talent.
Yeah.
Only the stories lack depth.
Yeah.
So if they can have all the professionals look at them, we are surrounded by stories. Even your own history is a story.
Oh wow.
A very interesting movie. I'm telling you.
I don't know.
So in the middle of it, the camera person zooms. You didn't tell him to zoom. You're still on a wide shot. Meanwhile, at that time, you don't even have a monitor.
To see what's going on. Oh, wow. How difficult can life be?
I know. So then the sound person, could we afford a boom? Did we have people who have booms?
Did you even have lapels, specific booms?
No, we didn't have lapels. Of course, for film, they don't
you
even
don't
use lapels.
Yeah.
No, lapels can work.
That's for us, yeah.
You must have a real professional boom. And
Did you have railroads?
we didn't have that, but we knew them.
Yeah.
So we get a normal microphone, which they use at weddings.
Oh my.
So when they move a little bit, there's a lot of creaking.
Yeah, I know.
So in the end, and the pictures are so beautiful. I'm telling you, this is my best film. And by the way, it's the one that made me famous, and it's the one that got me a job at Makerere. But my first film called Fate.
Yes.
And I really marketed it. The picture was extremely perfect. Up to now, really, considering that I used DVXs, the Panasonics, the sound was terrible. So we had to go back and shoot sound and lay it over. Oh. Could I even get the characters? So we've got a lot of issues, technical to the finance. Now the finance, Coca-Cola allowed to give me drinks on set. I was really very lucky and very aggressive because I walked everywhere. So they would give me drinks on set. My father at that time still had his rice mills. He used to send me rice. I was, my house was my office. Wow. I did everything from my house. I remember that time when my film went to DSTV. I think DSTV, Africa Magic, the team that works there was impressed. They sent me Gaetano Kagwa to come and interview me in my small house at Mawanda Road there. Yeah. So anyway, so I really tried. So I put in a lot in terms of get money from wherever you can, get goods from where you can. Yeah. BMK, may he so rest in peace, the one who passed on recently. His hotel was part of our set. Wow. We wanted an apartment. Yeah. Because my film was even up class. Yes. I had even thought about that. Yeah. That most representation about Africa are about the poor, the ordinary. Yes. But we've got also the other story. We've got
the wealthy, the well-to-do.
Yeah, the well-to-do. So my film was about the well-to-do. Yeah. A middle-class, working-class woman, an accountant, after all. You know what accountant means.
Yeah, I know.
And she, an accountant, but she doesn't have a husband. and with our society,
The stigma,
where
stereotypes.
at a certain age, and at that time I was in my 20s. You know, when you're in your 20s, you think 35 is so old. Now that I think about it,
Yes.
I'm in my 30s, you're like, wow,
How could I have thought that?
how could I have thought that? You even think 40 is really so old.
Oh, yeah.
You find writing, there is an old man, 40-year-old.
Yes, and it's like a life crisis.
I know.
Yes.
So anyways, in this movie, because this Kate, the leading character, she doesn't have a husband.
Yes.
And she has all the money, and her friends are getting married, and you know how we collect money? People will send you, come for a wedding meeting or attend a wedding.
Contributions.
And whenever she would receive the messages, she would get very stressed.
Oh, okay.
One of her best friends is married with children.
Yes.
And then her mother in the village, who by the way, made celebrities here. I made actors.
Okay.
Most of the actors acting today acted in my movie. Yes, I made them.
Yeah.
Even the celebrities, I made them, because when I was the chief judge, I would look at the movie and see what is good acting. Yeah. And I think Ugandans were used to the corruptible type of thing, where
they'll just
if someone is given some money, then they will be.
They'll judge.
So I would make people who don't expect to be the best actor, the best. Of course, I would receive movies which I would judge. Yeah. So, the mother in the village, who is called Keloi Komgisha, she's one of the fairly old actors. Yeah. Was putting the daughter on stress. I want a grandchild. She even suggested that I've gotten a young lad in the village. He can make you pregnant. You have your money. You look after your child. I just want to carry my grandchild. Wow. So that is the conflict of my first story. Yes. So this lady is like, oh, what can I do? Anyway, my mother is really being so silly. So she meets some very hunky guy in a certain shop. She had gone to look for, and even that venue I used, I think they sell Xerox stuff, was a big corporate company. I went and asked to use their space. Yeah. Beautiful space. She meets this handsome guy, and Kumbe, the guy also has got his own history. Anyway, this is a movie. We all do. She quickly moves out with him. She tells the friend, like, the guy is okay. And the friend is like, but take time to know this guy. Like, anyway, he's cool. He loves kids. He loves me. And so she finances her own wedding. And this story, I had heard it from somewhere, that there's a woman who financed her wedding. Her husband used to beat her and whatever. So when you're talking to a creative, you really have got to have the
because your story could end up on the screen.
On the screen. So this was a story I had happened in real life. So I just tried to see how I change it and inject in some themes. Yeah, themes that I feel.
Social commentary.
Yeah, because really.
So, if you were to talk to 23-year-old Cindy, who is idealistic, the way you were when you were doing Fate.
But I put ideas into practice.
That's true. But I'm saying, now the Cindy who has been to PhD, the Cindy who has judged movies at the international level, who knows what she knows now, if the younger Cindy came now with the ideas you had then.
Most likely, I would fail to take off.
Why?
Yeah, you're so critical. You want everything to be so perfect.
Yes.
And sometimes you need that naivety of
youth.
Of youth.
Yes.
To, if I may use my language, or tomera.
Yes.
Yeah, just hit things, knock things before you know it. You're somewhere. And when we were studying film, Sister Dipio brought us a Congolese filmmaker called Petna Ndaliko. He told us, you know what, we've got a lot of stories to tell, and there is the ideal, there is what you must do to tell a good story. Yes. But for us, we just need a camera to tell our stories. People want to know Africa exists. Africans make movies unless we tell stories. Yes. Even Sembene's movies technically are not the best.
True.
Yeah, you get
even the earlier Nigerian movies before big money came in.
Yeah, because the people who were making those early Nigerian movies were prospective businessmen.
Okay.
Yeah, they were just businessmen. Give them the story. They get a celebrity who will make them get their money within. By the way, within 2 days, a Nigerian filmmaker makes movies.
That's what I was told.
Money. Yeah.
Even just getting a camcorder, he has a house available to him for 2 days. He shoots his whole thing and finishes it.
Yeah, finishes it, and they release it. Within 2 days, they've made their money.
Yeah.
And also you can also understand the population,
Yeah, the
then
population
their history.
It's a different country.
Yeah, because of the war that they had. So their theatre-going culture, for us, we can go to the National Theatre to watch comedy. They don't have that.
Yeah.
So every evening, people buy movies to
And
go and
watch from home, yeah.
Here, which is the opposite.
Yes.
People would rather even drink a beer and have popcorn than buy a movie,
Yeah.
which is really sad for us.
Yeah, but so in light of all of those complications, yeah, you would
the
still...
money bit. I was still telling you about the money bit.
Yes.
So when my film was finally launched, I sold, because it had a given message. It was about HIV/AIDS, how this woman lives positively with HIV/AIDS. I went to all NGOs, I went to some corporate companies, packaged good cards. I made money, by the way.
Okay.
So people were buying corporate tables at 5 a.m. That is 2,000, not 5 a.m., 500,000, 1 million. That is 2006 when I launched my first film. I took it to cinema, surprisingly, then, which may not even work now, because the film had had a lot of media attention.
Yeah.
I had UBC sponsor my adverts for free at prime time, thanks to my tank. So UBC was sponsoring me. I could convince them, and I told them, this is the deal. Sponsor me, let me go show this film. This message is so important that people get to watch it. I'll give you the movie to show.
But ultimately, I'm just trying to be sure that I understand you well. What you're telling me is about 2 or 3 things. One, the sheer amount of determination.
Ability even to market.
Exactly. The innovation that went into you marketing, personally going into sales.
Yeah. And which becomes a shortcoming in the end, because in Uganda, because we don't have distributors.
Yeah.
I would make this very convincing, very good movie.
Yes.
I bring to a business person like you.
Yeah.
He's like, this is good. He's going to make money.
Yeah.
You do the marketing.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Yeah.
I had written, I had produced.
Yes.
Yeah, to the extent that I appeared in one scene against my will, because I don't like acting, the actor didn't come.
So you had to step in.
And we had to film. Everybody is there. We had a certain company that exports flowers. They were even giving us flowers. I really had the best.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying that.
I had to step in. So all those challenges, so it is good that we develop an industry where there will be a producer, there will be a writer, and there will be a marketer.
See, you're worried. I mean, you're talking specifically about the movie situation. I'm looking at a person with a dream. That's Cindy with a dream. And she wants to make sure that her dream comes true.
Yeah.
How far are you willing to go?
Of course, it means you must wear all these hats like I wore them. That's why I told you I'll use my own experience to talk so that you can understand that for you to achieve your dream, you're going to be as flexible as you can be, and know that you're operating.
Maybe not flexible per se, but adaptable.
Yeah, adaptable. Of course, when something is flexible, it can easily adapt. You can easily bend this way and that way.
Okay, yeah, if you mean that, from that point of view.
So that you must know the environment very well. You must know your market. You must, so that you're able to adjust according to the needs. But of course, now things have fairly changed.
Yeah.
But the challenges that a filmmaker faces today are not so different from what I faced. Apart from, maybe today there is more awareness. So my film went to Cineplex. I had like 20 people, 30 people come to watch it. Yeah. To the extent that some of them, after watching the movie, they would look at me and say, oh, this poor small girl, so she has HIV. Because they would not differentiate that this is the creative piece. They think you've written about your own life. Then the guy who acted as the protagonist there, who infected this lady and used to steal her money, the man the lady married, they would want to beat him. Real life.
So, but that means you had achieved your effect.
I had achieved. And actually, I would look at that reaction and I want to cry. I'm like, I've really touched them. I'm a really product of Sembene.
Yes.
I'm going to carry on with this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm communicating to the people. So I was excited. I said, I'm going to premiere this movie countrywide. UBC was willing to sponsor my adverts. So I headed to Entebbe So when I go to Entebbe, I get the venue, I put there my posters. So in Entebbe, people ask me, where are the actors? The young we don't see the actors. Oh, this is very beautiful. Where are the actors? Are you the actor? So I sat down being the analytical me. I was like, oh, our people don't know the difference between drama and film.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it would be futile for me to even continue to go to Hoima or Mbarara or where. I went and told the UBC to stop. I said, okay. Of course, Entebbe was very bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told UBC, anyway, I went to campus. I was not even teaching there. I said, okay, this message is so significant to the campusers. I asked the dean to show in the halls of residence.
Okay.
I started with my hall. That is Mary Stewart.
Yes.
The university students themselves did not know what is a film and what is
Drama.
a drama. I said, okay, now if I thought I'm going to do film as a business, this is what it is. I'm going to stop showing these movies.
Okay.
Because it wasn't making economic sense.
Yeah.
So I go downtown to ask the people who are selling Nigerian movies to to sell my film.
Okay.
They told me they can give me 700,000 or 1 million, and they want a preview. So whenever they would preview, because the film was in English, with just a few lines of renewal.
Yes.
They asked me, but madam, first of all, told him film. Are you an actor or whatever? I'm like, I'm a writer, and of course you're speaking too much English. I don't know Luganda very well, surprisingly. I'm not confident enough to speak it, though my husband is a Muganda.
We shall do that film one day, but
so I'm not confident because when you go on the street, you speak Luganda, then you realize you're speaking just Runyoro in Luganda. But why don't I just speak Runyoro? After all, we can actually hear each other.
Yeah, we understand what we're talking about.
So I just speak my Runyoro, kwende Bitakuli, kwende Bihimba, and people sell to me and I go away.
Yeah.
So they're like, why isn't your film in Luganda?
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, well, no. Okay. So I realized I'm dealing with a totally different market. Then they asked me I should have my film VJ'd for them to show it. And I already had my own views of what VJing is.
Exactly, and you were not willing to compromise on that.
Yeah, I'm not willing to compromise. So I couldn't VJ my film. I started only selling my film at the National Theatre and sold it to DSTV.
Okay.
I can't say I recovered all my money, but in terms of cash, I didn't even put in much.
Yeah.
And my second film was commissioned. So possibly you can also make a living that way if you make good work.
Yeah.
So my second film was commissioned. I was already lecturing at campus.
So that gave you a comfortable...
Yes, so you had the money and you had the money to make a movie and you try to outdo yourself. Yeah. So all the things you didn't have, I get a sound mixer, sound recorder, rather on set. You get professional, not really professional actors, spend time teaching my actors. Have assistant director 1 and 2, have all the costumes. So I did a good job in fair play.
Okay.
Even fate is good. Yeah. The challenges were less because I had the money.
Yes.
And I told them, you can never pay me enough for my brain. I'm retaining copyright. Okay. So I sold it to DSTV.
Okay.
My third film, where I put in my own money, really, I had to even get a salary loan. I remember, I think I ran to my father and told him, Dad, I need to get money to make this movie. He told me, my daughter. I think when you grow old, you realize that you won't live away from the banks. Your salary goes to the bank, or you need a bank for a loan. Yeah. Go get a loan. And I think he really made me independent. Okay. I've never gone to him to ask for money. Again.
So just out of interest, looking back now on your journey, what are the satisfactions? Is there anything you would have done differently?
No. I would have done everything the way I did it.
Good.
And if I could relieve that other person, the Cindy in her 20s, I think I would make
exactly the same
heaven
choice.
shake, or even make much more.
You'd be much bolder. You take bigger risks.
Now I even took the risk of possibly make more movies because I had too much energy.
Yes.
But again, in that same at that same time, I was married.
Yes.
I was married in 2007. Yes. I made my first film in 2006. I graduated in 2006. So I launched my first film at Cineplex just a few months after graduation. So
Yes.
that means I graduated and went on a
Straight
journey
into, yeah.
to make a movie. For me, that had to be a job.
Yes.
And I didn't even think I would teach. So
Yeah.
when I'm making movies, my professor, whom we were not even friends, really, apart from her teaching you, and you get your A and go out to make movies.
Yeah.
And I think she was very impressed that I had gone out and
Try it out.
And whenever I had interview, they would ask me, who taught you? So I could then have an interview without her name.
Okay.
So she calls me again at Makerere University one day. Cindy, I want to meet you. I go. And she asks me, what do you want to do? I think deeply about it. I'm like, I think she should know I'm already making movies. I thought I want to make movies all my life.
Yeah.
And she asked, do you know that all filmmakers are teachers? You teach the world. Yeah, you communicate to the world. You teach the world. And in a real sense, most filmmakers are lecturers. You have the class that can get you a job here. Apply. We want to mentor people into filmmaking and film teaching, rather. So I applied. So filmmaking really gave me a job. I'm so proud of it. I become a lecturer. And once I get to Makerere, and I even told her, please, sister, make sure that this job I'm coming to do to teach, I didn't even start education, it won't derail me from making movies, because that is my passion. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to teach the world. I want to tell the world things. I want to, because I was already impressed that people can watch my movie and react the way they reacted. Even my second film, my third film, Windows of Hope, which is an award-winning film,
Yeah.
I've already been recognized for my movies at least.
Yes.
Will really make people, you should watch, find time and watch them.
I will.
Yes,
it's just
find time and watch them, and possibly it will be very interesting if you can have a conversation after you watching my movies, because we have a more deeper conversation of me.
As a person.
Yeah, as a person.
But it's probably better for me that I didn't know, because then I can ask all the silly questions.
Yeah, good, yeah, for the audience.
Yes.
Because I think even people don't know me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really...
But I don't even believe that people must necessarily know you. I just think that every single individual in this world has a story, and that question is, how can that story come out so we can learn from it?
Yeah, sure.
Well, let me say this. My time's run out.
Okay.
My
right.
coffee is done.
It's getting cool. You didn't even take yours. I've done a good job.
I've done twice the amount that you drank, but I just will let you in a minute. What would you say to your 13-year-old daughter?
13-year-old daughter.
What would you say to her, going through what you've been through?
First and foremost, just looking at my daughter, she's my exact photocopy. Not in terms of looks, in terms of character.
Exactly.
I am a firstborn, my mother and father's side, and they were not married. They got me when they were pretty young, don't ask the age.
It's all right.
So as a firstborn, and my siblings who follow me, both sides, I'm fairly older than them. So I must say I almost grew up as a loner.
Okay.
Yeah, because you are alone and you must fix things.
Yes.
Possibly your parents will leave you alone at home. So in the end, you almost become a mother.
Yes. Very early on.
Very early on, which has even translated to now. It follows me inadvertently that whenever you reach somewhere, you end up wanting to take charge.
Well, it just comes naturally. You
Yeah,
take
it comes
charge.
naturally, especially with firstborns.
Exactly.
So I always wanted my daughter to be like that.
Yeah.
And I've always trained her. Of course, she's gonna have a different, or she's even already having a different life from what I had.
Yeah, purely.
I always told her to take the world by its horns. Yeah, look everyone you're talking to in the eyes. Be as aggressive as you can be. We have a nanny at home now, but my daughter wakes up very early to make breakfast for her siblings, because I did that.
Okay.
So I'm already teaching her to be as hardworking as she can be. What she can be in life is incumbent on her. What she wants to do is incumbent on her. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cindy.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for having me.
These stories are very humbling, and the human elements of your journey in film will be useful to more people than you really know, even actually mostly outside of filmmaking. And please continue telling our stories. And I hope that one day Africa will be better known because of your efforts.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Good.
you so much.